The way the webinar is structured, there are three sort of sections to it. Each section's got roughly half an hour, and each of those half an hours is split into two parts. The first part is a sort of 15-minute presentation, and then we'll have a 15-minute kind of Q&A at the end. So when you're posting your questions, please consider which part of the webinar we're in and try and make your questions kind of related to that part and that particular topic that we've talked about. The slide deck that we've got on today has been loaded up to slideshare.net, and tomorrow you'll be sent a link round to where you can see those slides, and so that will come in the follow-up email. In terms of InsideLocal, hang on, let me go onto the right screen here. InsideLocal is, I guess, a collaboration between BrightLocal and the Local Search Forum. And what we're doing is creating a bi-weekly webinar series, which is kind of roughly 2 times a month. Over the summer, it's a little bit more sporadic due to holidays and things. But what we want to do is essentially create webinars that address the hot issues, trends, topics, opportunities affecting local search. And there's really kind of two aspects to it. It's great content and excellent speakers. It's designed to be a kind of advanced level or just sort of sub-advanced, very informative, very actionable. So you can really, have some kind of actual tips to take away that you can employ in your kind of work that day and beyond. Like I said, we've got some more webinars coming up, and at the end of the webinar today, I'll just kind of run you through those dates and topics, and also where you can kind of sign up for those. So the speakers we have, as I said, they don't need much of an introduction, but I will give them a very brief one. We have Mike Blumenthal, Andrew Shotland, and Phil Roezk. Many of you will be familiar with Mike's blog, which is dedicated to Google Places and Google Maps, Google Local. Essentially anything in the sphere of Google Local, and Mike will cover it. Mike's often invited by Google to beta test new features, and is also part of the team that runs Local U training events. Andrew's worked in local and online marketing for a long time. He started off working with IYPs and now is kind of a local search consultant. He's a prolific blogger and has 2 of his own blogs, which are the Local SEO Guide and applemaxmarketing.com. And we have Phil, who runs local consultancy Local Search Visibility. He blogs extensively about local and also has a unique and insightful viewpoint. He's a regular speaker at events such as SMX, and is also part of the inner sanctum at the Local Search Forum, where he helps guide us through some of the pitfalls that local search can offer. So those are our speakers. We also have myself and Linda on with us today. Obviously, many of you know Linda from her work on the Local Search Forum. Linda will be helping to field some of the questions from listeners, and also kind of, sort of supporting some of the comments made by the speakers. I would like to thank a lot of our customers for joining us today, and also for putting their faith in us. But that is enough introductions. We've got a lot to cover, so I'd like to kind of jump into the first part of the presentation, which is about Google Places updates. And to that, I'm just going to hand over to Mike. So just give me a second while I change presenter.
Miles said that I was the best and the brightest. I would like to correct that. Actually, I'm an idiot savant. I don't know a whole lot about many things, but I know about Google Maps, Places, Local. So, if anybody spent as much time looking and staring at Google as I did, and they didn't know something, they would, then there would be a real problem. So it's not that I'm so brilliant. It's that I just spent hours staring at it. So Google has sort of once again sort of changed branding on us. It used to be called Google Maps, and then it became Google Places, and then it was Google plus Local under Marissa Meyer. But now it appears that Google no longer has a name for Google Local. It is just a data set, and it's causing a lot of confusion. But let's get into the new dashboard. The new dashboard is rolling out fairly quickly, and it started several months ago. It's a upgraded Google Places for Business dashboard that allows much easier editing of your listing. It has a one-button upgrade to Google Plus, so that the opportunities to add social to your Google Plus page are much easier, and it's modular in nature. This sort of the system is designed that Google can easily plug in new features going forward, paid or free, and once this gets rolled out, we expect to see local features added on a regular basis. One of the most significant attributes of the new dashboard is that it's context sensitive and real support. They actually, at least in the United States, they're now doing English language support out of the United States and during business hours in the United States on a callback basis, and this is a huge difference. In some tests, I was able to get several complicated problems resolved via a phone call back from Google in less than 15 minutes. So this is a huge change in the new system. The new dashboard rolled out first in the United States, and they're rolling out first to single language countries. Apparently, it's more difficult for them to roll it out to places like Canada that has dual languages. So it's in US, Ireland, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Austria, Norway, Croatia, Finland, Singapore, Switzerland, and even Liechtenstein. First, it rolls out to new claimants in those countries, and then they start transferring over existing accounts. They're transferring the simplest accounts first. So if it's a one listing in a single claimed Google Places dashboard, those are the accounts that get rolled over first. So hopefully everybody will be seeing it over the next several months. One of the big changes in the dashboard is the way that Google is handling categories going forward. In the old dashboard, you were allowed 5 categories. Google required that you used one of theirs. 4 could be custom, so it's fairly easy to have your listing rank in sort of long tail unique areas. Google is now requiring that all categories be from their predefined list. So the good news is you can have up to 10 categories associated with a listing. The bad news is that it's only one of their existing one. But Google is picking up categories beyond their limited number from trusted Yellow Page sources, upstream data providers, as well as the homepage content of your website, so that even if you can't choose the word sushi, for example, as a category, Google will still show you under sushi, and they will get that information from elsewhere on the internet. So the tip there is to be sure that that trusted YP sources and the primary upstream data suppliers have good categorical information, and that the homepage of your website does as well. Another upgrade in the dashboard was the way that Google handles hours. Historically, it has been very difficult to have split hours, different hours on different days. They've dealt with all that. You can have as many hour sets on as many different days as you would like. There's really no bad news about the hours, the way they handle them. They also have upgraded the description. It was previously limited to 200 characters. I haven't tested the maximum, but it can fit an awful lot of data. It does do rich text, so that's good news. The bad news is the rich text is broken and doesn't really work yet. There's a number of issues there involving both security and other issues. One of the tips there is you want to be careful to not use the full length, or even you want to probably limit your description to about 150 words, which is about 8,000 characters, because otherwise it will push your reviews too far down the page. So the new dashboard is really vastly improved interface, much better to use, easier to get help, easier to find help, easier to get a human to help you. But to me, the big issue with the new dashboard is it reflects a change in architecture, which really will change how we interact with Google Local going forward. Historically, Google would take information from the dashboard and take information from the third-party data providers, and every 6 weeks would create a new result in the main search index. So basically, they would create a search result around your business every 6 weeks. This led to frequent merges, frequent dupes, a lot of erroneous information. Starting in January of last year, Google switched the architecture of Local over to the knowledge graph architecture, where your listing is now resides inside of a fixed database, and it's a canonical local listing. They first rolled the map maker out in April of last year that fed data directly to this canonical listing. They rolled out Google Plus in the fall of last year, and then in the spring of this year, they rolled out the new dashboard. All of these new rollouts include a new data pipeline, which gets data into the knowledge graph much more quickly. So in the past, it's been anywhere from a week to 6 weeks for data to move in there, and still is if you're using the old dashboard. But if you're using any of the new products, data will flow in almost in near real time, depending on vetting of the information. Some pieces of data, like a name change, may require additional vetting. So the new dashboard, the beauty of it is that minor changes of hours or descriptions will typically flow through to the results page in an hour or two. So that's a huge difference. And then from this canonical local listing data, Google is building Google Plus pages. One of the problems has been, what do you call these things? All the pages that result from the data that you put in, regardless of where you put it in, it's called a Google Plus page. This is an example of an unclaimed page. You can see it has 2 tabs only. There's no description in quotes. That gives you a clue it's unclaimed. But a page from the old dashboard looks very similar, except it again has 2 tabs, but it now has a description in quotes, but there's no indication that it's verified, even though it is. And then a page from the new Google Business Dashboard, again, 2 tabs, a potentially rich snippet description. You can see here the error coming into play where it was in italics and should have been bold. Those errors are now showing up. Hopefully that'll be fixed shortly. But the change here is you're now seeing that it's verified. So that's a Google Plus page that's been claimed through the new dashboard. And then a page that's been upgraded to social, either through the Kluge merging process or through the 1-button upgrade in the dashboard. That has 4 tabs on the top, sometimes 5, a rich snippet, a rich text description, and a verification. So these are all now called Google Plus pages. They're just, their data may come from a slightly different source, but they're all the same. And if you have managed that from multiple of those sources, the data still shows up in the same place. What's interesting about the architecture of Google Local is that the data that's shown up here that comes from this canonical record also gets displayed, very, very broadly across Google. That data gets displayed on almost every piece of hardware, and going forward, and all these new applications they're bringing out and new apps. And typically the ranking algorithm is pretty much the same. The ranking algorithm, changes slowly. It hasn't changed dramatically over time. It still uses location prominence as a factor. It's in some results it's using web prominence as a factor. But there are changes that are occurring. One of those that you can see is in the new Google Maps. This is the new product that was rolled out at Google I/O in June. It's available by invitation. They're rolling out fairly slowly. One of the changes you're seeing is the use of cards to reflect the data that's in this canonical listing, but you're also seeing a ranking algorithm that is based much more on social signals and reviews and Google is now recommending places based on your review history and perhaps review history of your friends. So in that sense, in Google Maps, the ranking algorithm is showing more use of social signals. This is the new map list view. There is no longer a places view, and this reflects this new social ordering of results. If you don't have the new Google Maps just yet, you can, if you add that little snippet to a search phrase, you can see how Google is going to order any given local search in the new maps by adding that snippet to the search phrase. The other big change that's rolling out over the last couple weeks is the introduction of the local carousel. This is a more visual representation of the canonical information, basically Google grabbing a limited amount of information, placing it at the top of the screen, essentially a picture, review information, summary information. You'll notice here and in Maps, Google is going to a more flat view of ranking. It's still ranked, but there's no sort of A, B, C, D, E. It's sort of, since it's moved horizontally, everything appears more equal. You can scroll across and get more results. This is showing up primarily in the entertainment, travel, food areas. You can see here that getting more than 10 reviews is very important because it highlights your listing. Also, photos are very important here. So far, we've found about 350 phrases in those areas that trigger these types of results. And one of the several things that happen, one is that with these results, there's not a lot of organic information available below the page, and Google is showing ads there potentially. These results really dominate the page. When somebody clicks on a given result, oh, I'm sorry. One of the things you'll note in these results is if you don't have good photos uploaded and Google can't find photos elsewhere on the internet, they're going to either show the map or grab a photo from elsewhere on the internet. Clearly, it's important that you put good photos up in your places page. And you want to look at this aspect ratio, because the aspect ratio, which is closer to square, Google will crop any of your horizontal photos to make them fit. So you want to tend towards using square photos in your dashboard as opposed to horizontal photos as much as possible. One of the things, when you click through on one of these results, Google then does a sort of branded search for that, and even on the branded search can continue to show an ad. So you might want to consider taking out an ad on your with Google on your brand name as a defensive move, so that other business listings can't be showing on your results. This also means that you'll be seeing fewer search queries in your analytics that are keyword driven. You're going to see perhaps an increase in branded queries, since there's no way to get directly from the carousel to your web page. The carousel will show 19 to 20 listings depending on screen width. There's very, very little room above the fold. The bulk of the clicks above the fold, 90% of them or so, lead to other Google properties rather than off-site. And this carousel uses the same ranking algorithm that was in use before. So if the results were showing blended results before, it's a blended, partially using web and partially using location prominence. If they weren't showing blended results, like in the restaurant industry, it's predominantly location-based ranking. So, you know, just in summary there, use great photos, consider an ad on your brand, and be sure that you're engaged in review management and encouraging your clients to leave you reviews, because given that people are seeing just a photo and reviews about you on many of these searches, their reviews are taking on increasing importance. It seems to people who don't watch Google daily, like I do, that the changes are radical, but all of these changes are very evolutionary. Google doesn't throw things away. Most of the algorithms and features of the past are still there. They may have a little bit less import, but if you learn it now, you'll know it forever, and Google will probably be using that new feature forever. I will turn it back over to you, Miles. If there's any questions, I'm available.
Mike, that was great. Appreciate you kind of taking us through all that. Yes, we do have a ton of questions that have come in. These questions could be answered by any of the speakers, and also by Linda. So start off with a couple of questions that we had posted earlier in the week by kind of some early bird attendees. First question that came through was posted by Daryl. I know Daryl very well. He says, with the shift to only allowing pre-approved categories, how do you see that affecting profiles ranking for businesses? And you talked obviously about making sure that you've got other sort of data, data on other data providers, good categorization in those. I guess is it? Do we see rankings for local businesses being narrowed down by this narrow set of categories, and can that easily be broadened out again?
Well, it makes it harder to rank on longer tail categories, that's for sure. I mean, custom categories was an easy win for small businesses and SEOs. Google, in their effort to create a more structured database, has moved towards structured categories. I think that Google understands keywords and indexes every word. I think that you can expand what categories you show on by being sure that your categories are expansive. Again, primarily at the YP companies that Google looks at, but also at the upstream providers, and that your front page of your site, the home page of your site, reflects the real categories that you're in. Google does keyword to category mapping, and I think that a small business with a good website and a good handle on their upstream data will continue to show on a broad range of phrases.
Okay, great. A couple more kind of related questions to that is you took us through the new description sort of options you've got there. You also talked about also not kind of exceeding the kind of character limit or kind of going too close to the character limit. What's your sort of opinion on kind of trying to put in categories into there? Was not necessarily keyword stuffing, but I guess you're kind of going down that line with this particular question and kind of using categories, using the description to try and bloat those categories.
It's not clear to me that Google is using that description field for categorization. There may be some of that going on. I think Google is very wary of the field because it's been broadly abused in the past. Google has said to me that they do not use it. I don't know if I believe that 100%. Google uses everything. I don't think it has a huge impact. I think that you really want to optimize your places page, your Google Plus page for local. You want to optimize it for conversion. So I think that you need to write a description that is the most compelling elevator speech you can, and make the length appropriate so that it is visually appealing and eminently readable.
Okay, another final sort of question on that point. You talked about obviously using your homepage as a way to kind of for Google to kind of match keywords to categories. Is there anything in kind of schema.org, any kind of markup that you can kind of set to kind of trigger or Google to identify keyword as a potential category?
There is no schema that does that, but Google, if you go to Bill Slawski's blog, he's written a number of posts on keyword to category matching that Google does, so you can get some clue. They have obviously an internal schema that does that, i.e. this keyword triggers this category of type of business. So you need to have semantically related content. Obviously, it's hard to know exactly what that is to try to game it. Again, I think if you write clearly, identify what you do and where you do it, and hit the key areas, Google will typically show that, assuming your website's strong enough.
Okay, great. Another question that got posted earlier this week was from Alicia. It was regarding, I guess, how accurate you have to be when you're building out citations to do with NAP. Obviously, there's been people who've got sort of, I guess, a little bit kind of paranoid about things such as the minutiae of spelling sweet as sweet rather than STE or using a hashtag. And I guess this question is, how accurate do you have to be with NAP data, and how intelligent is Google to essentially kind of filter out slight distortion in it?
So if you do a little mind experiment and you figure out both, and you look at how every data provider essentially handles suite differently, how every small business never uses their name consistently, if you did a mind experiment and assume that Google didn't handle these things correctly, there would be duplicates in the index in massive numbers. There aren't massive numbers of duplicates in the index, so Google obviously is able to normalize a great number of these variables that they run into in name and in suite and even street naming. Obviously, phone number is a key to that holds the key glue that holds the cluster of data about your business together. The other variables, Google is very good at matching them. You don't want to tempt fate as much as possible. You want to be consistent, but you don't need to drive yourself crazy about it. Localese, InfoUSA, Axiom, Google all handle suite, for example, slightly differently. You need to respect the way they do it, and pick a standard for yourself that's typically close to the Google standard. But when forced, you're going to have to do it. So I wouldn't worry about this a great deal. You want to be accurate. You want to have your name the same. But Google does a pretty good job of normalizing data, and I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to worry about it other than trying to be meticulous.
Okay, that's great. I might bring in a couple of the other speakers now. Got a question here that was posted by Pierre Marc. His question, I might put this out to you, Linda, is in the latest local search ranking factors study, he saw that centroid was really important. He was a little bit confused about what a centroid is and whether it's still as relevant now as it was, 12 months ago when the last search ranking factor study was completed.
That's a great question, and actually the local search ranking factors study is coming out, the new one, very shortly. We all already participated, so it should be published. But in a nutshell, centroid citations and reviews were more important in the old places algo. Now there's a new blended algo that we've had for over a couple years now, and that doesn't look at centroid as much, and centroid is where Google thinks the center of the city is. So not as important, but it is important to be in that city. So you're not going to rank in the big metro next door if you're located in a small city next door.
There is a, can I just add to that? Do you mind?
Yeah.
There is a somewhat misconception about the way Google handles centroid. If you read their patents, they actually deal with the center of the industries, in other words, where the cluster of industries is, as defining the center of the search. So if all the lawyers are on the corner of Main and State, that typically defines the center of the search rather than the center of the city. So it isn't even the centroid of the city that matters. It matters that you're near where the other people in your industry are.
Oh, that's a great distinction. I didn't realize that, but you'll often see like a cluster of auto dealers, and that's where the centroid is centered.
Of the search, right.
That part of town. Good point.
No, that's really interesting, Mike. I wasn't aware of that. Another kind of question that came in, I might actually put that to you, Andrew, is this has come through from Scott. He says, I've got a new client. They actually haven't got any directory listings, or a Google Plus listing at the moment. If I was to go out there and start to build citations or go out and build a Google Plus profile, is there any preference in which order I should do that? Is there any value in building citations before I go out and create the Google Plus listing? Will I build up any kind of equity or authority which will allow me to rank faster in Google if I've already got citations?
So there may be some edge cases where it's might be valuable to have like a strong citation profile before you build your Google Plus page. But for 99% of businesses, I don't think it's a totally short-term issue. And the fact is that building your Google Plus profile page and building your initial citations should not take a lot of time. So there's no need why you have to do one first versus the other. You can kind of do them all in one morning. So this is kind of like with the suite, STE issue. Don't worry about these kind of little things and think they're going to have a big effect over a long period of time. Just get them all done in a reasonable amount of time, and over the long term, you should have a pretty decent shot.
Mike, back to you quickly. Given kind of leading on from Andrew's sort of answer to that particular question, obviously with the kind of verification kind of lag within Google, what's going to be the future of kind of verification for Google listings?
Google is trying to speed the process up. The postcards are coming more quickly. The only difference, if Google trusts your listing, they may give you a phone call instead of a postcard, which might be quicker. But Google has, in the United States anyways, managed to get the time of getting that postcard out typically to less than a week, showing up in less than a week, which means it's going out almost as quickly as you claim it. So Google is working towards faster everything, faster data in, faster data out, faster approvals. They're trying to get to real time in local. And if anybody can get there to real time with sophisticated processes, they can.
Okay. And what's your current sort of general advice on whether people should merge their pages or wait? And if they're going to merge, what are the kind of reasons why they should merge?
The current, if you're in there's several states, but if you're in the old dashboard, Google's advice, and which I think is good advice from Joel, and it's in his post at the forum, which everybody should read, is to, if you're in the old dashboard, wait for the new dashboard, and when you do that, you'll have a one-button upgrade. The one-button upgrade is much less buggy than the current merge process, which has a tendency to go wrong, particularly on service area businesses, but go wrong in general if there's problems, any problems at all with your data. So the best recommendation is to wait for the new dashboard before you do the upgrade to social. For me, the question of whether you do the upgrade to social is a business case, not a technical one. If you really need videos, If you really need a social stream, then you probably should do social. At this point, it is not a huge ranking factor directly affecting the listing, and we'll go into this more, but it does, I suppose social gives you other ways of showing up in the results, but it really should be per business, not.
Okay.
If you can wait, you should.
Okay, just a couple more questions before we draw this part of the webinar to a close. People have asked about kind of ranking factors and how powerful reviews are. Obviously, you talked about the carousel and how actually that they're images becoming more visual, and also you've got the kind of review counts in there. How big a factor is reviews on Google and also reviews on other providers like Insider pages? Are they still, is their kind of weight of importance going up or down, or what's your view on that?
Well, when you analyze a Google branded search on it, like if you do a branded search on your business, Google uses the word review 7 times on that page. If Google is using a word that many times, they think it's important. Clearly, in the new carousels, they're highlighted. So Google thinks it improves the searcher's experience. In that sense, they're very important. Their impact on rank is some. The best research I did showed that getting to 10, for example, led to a 1 position increase in rank. I have no reason to doubt that. I don't think it's any more than that. I think the value of reviews, though, shouldn't be viewed from a ranking point of view. It should be, like Google does, reviewed from a consumer point of view. It makes their experience better. It sends them in pre-converted. They're ready to buy from it. So to me, reviews are important not because they increase rank, but because they increase the credibility of your business.
Mike, you're getting a little bit quiet on us just the last bit.
Me getting quiet, sorry. That's not my tendency. The importance of reviews revolves more around how it helps your potential customers choose you rather than around ranking.
Yeah, so it's a great conversion device. Essentially, it helps you stand out
Absolutely.
on a page. Lifts your head above your kind of competitors. Okay, so one final question is around the kind of rollout of the carousel and whether you've got any insights or kind of inside tips on when and how other categories might start to see their businesses represented in carousel type results.
Well, there's a lot of trends going on at Google. One is there's this trend towards them moving more clicks internally to themselves. But as to when it'll happen in any given category, very hard to predict. It could be a lack of good imagery, that Google maybe doesn't have good pictures of doctors. As Phil pointed out earlier, it might be a question of if rather than when. They may not move all categories over. There may be issues revolving around the EU settlement that are involved. So there's a lot of variables that makes it very difficult. In fact, it makes it impossible to predict the future. I used to have a mountaineering instructor that said to me that only fools and Easterners predict the weather in the Rocky Mountains. And I think the same holds true in local. You don't predict Google's behavior. You respond to it when it happens.
Okay, that's great. Well, Mike, listen, appreciate you showing your time, and also thanks to the other speakers for their answers. To everyone out there, we've had a ton of questions come in. I mean, literally hundreds. So I'm sorry we can't answer all of them. There is, by the way, a place that you can go on the local search forum to post any questions that you really want answered that we haven't got to today. And at the end of the webinar, I will kind of send that link round. So there's a little incentive for everyone to hang on to get that link. But apologies that we can't answer every single person's questions, but hopefully we covered off a good number there. So let's go on to the second section. I'm now going to hand over control to Phil Roezk, who's going to take us through his Google Plus piece. So Phil, I'm just handing over the control to you now.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that flattering introduction earlier. I'm not even going to try to follow up on that. And yeah, some great stuff by Mike. There's a lot of overlap, I think, there's some overlap between what he talked about and what I'm going to talk about. Basically, I'd like to talk for a few minutes about those newfangled pages called Google Plus for Business, Google Plus Local, whatever you want to call them. That's what I'm going to talk about. So let's see here. I'm breaking it up into 7 sections because there's a lot of ground to cover. I'm just going to start off with a very, very quick background on sort of when Google Plus came into the picture, because obviously for a number of years it was just, it was Google Local Business Center, then Google Places. And then I'm just going to dive right into sort of the nuts and bolts specifics about, when you need to upgrade you shouldn't upgrade, and sort of then some troubleshooting issues and sort of best practices. So let's launch right into it. Okay, your quick history lesson is before May 30th of last year. It was Google Places, and your job as the local business owner or local SEO was just to hang your shingle on Google Places. There was one listing on Google that you had to worry about. But last year, on May 30th, Google shook things up, and Google Places became Google Plus Local. And so there were really on that day there were two changes. One was just a renaming from everyone's Google Places page all of a sudden became Google Plus Local page, which, as we all know, is just a terrible name. So the first change was sort of cosmetic. The other kind of more significant change was some businesses all of a sudden had the option to quote unquote upgrade sort of their stripped down kind of clunky Google Places, aka Google Plus Local page, into a page that was fancier, that had more kind of social bells and whistles. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So that's just kind of a quick background on when Google Places became when we even had to worry about what to call these pages. Is it Google Plus Local? Is it Google Plus for Business, etc. So really, Google makes it way more confusing than it has to be, because there are essentially 4 types of pages you need to know about. And so here's just a very quick sort of Cliff's Notes version of what those 4 pages are. I'm going to get into the definitions in just a little bit. So the first one, Google Plus Local page. This is the page that nobody seems to. Everyone sort of has a different name for it, and it kind of comes down to what you prefer to call it. But essentially, what you need to know is, last year, a little over a year ago, everyone's Google Places page became Google Plus Local. So when I say Google Plus Local page, that's really the same thing as the Google Places page, and that tends to kind of trip up a lot of people, but that's the way it goes. So if you remember, Google Plus Local is essentially a glorified Google Places page, then you're on the right track. And the Google Plus Local page is, like here in sort of the classic local search results. Those are what show up now, in what we used to call the Google Places search results. So there's really no significant difference in those terms. The second type of page is the Google Plus for Business page, and this isn't necessarily a local page. I mean, as you can see, Amazon.com has one, and it's not much to look at, but they have a Google Plus Business page, and so local businesses can have it, as well as sort of brands, product lines, giants like Amazon, etc. So that's the second type of page you have to be aware of. The third type of page is what we call a merged or upgraded local business listing, where essentially some businesses have the option of combining the first 2 types of pages. That is, combining the Google Places, aka Google Plus Local page, with a Google Plus for Business page. Like the Amazon example I showed you. Not every business is eligible for this upgrade, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is the third type of page. Essentially, it's a hybrid between the first 2. And you can distinguish a upgraded, aka merged page from sort of the unupgraded type, based on the number of tabs you see at the top. I mean, you see here we have 4 tabs at the very top of the page: About, Posts, Photos, Videos. As Mike said, sometimes you have a 5th tab. I think it usually says like reviews or something. I'll defer to Mike on that one, but generally you have 4 tabs for the upgraded page. As you can see, also off to the right, you have a follow button. And so if you see those elements on a given business listing, you're looking at an upgraded page. Now the 4th type of page you got, and the last type of page you have to know about, is what's called the personal Google Plus page. And I mean, as long as you remember that essentially Google Plus is a Facebook wannabe, this all makes sense because, as with Facebook, you have a business page, you have a personal page. The same thing here. You can not even own a business and have a Google Plus page. And I'll get to how these interact with each other in a minute. So there are different kind of relationships between these four types of pages. The first is, I sort of alluded to this a second ago. The first is that you can upgrade the page formerly known as Google Places with a Google Plus for Business page and sort of get this hybrid type page with again, the various social bells and whistles. And you can tell just in the local search results what type of page you're looking at just by this link here at the bottom. It sort of looks kind of like a site link, but usually it's next to the number of reviews a given business has, and it says Google Plus page. Now, the first example here on the screen, that is not an upgraded Google page. The second one here is, because it has, again, you see that little link at the bottom. So that's the first relationship between the two types of pages. You can choose to upgrade your Google. You can choose to combine your Google Places and your Google Plus listings into sort of the fancier version. Now, I get asked a lot of times, Phil, what is the difference between the personal Plus page and my local listing, my Google Plus for Business page? Well, the only relationship I know of is if you happen to be in the habit of producing content, and like for instance, you're blogging, you can actually get your profile photo to show up in the organic and or local search results if you have a personal, if you implement what's called authorship markup, and you get, that requires you to have a personal Google Plus page. Now, you don't need to have the upgraded type of local listing, and in fact, you can have your authorship photo, kind of like what we see here off to the left. You can have that without even owning a business. If you're just, kind of a, let's say you're a mommy blogger or something, you can have your authorship photo and not necessarily have a local business or a local business listing. But really, the only time the personal Google Plus page and the local business pages intersect is when, A, you are showing up in the search result, the local or organic search results, and B, you've implemented authorship markup, because that requires a personal Google Plus page. Here's the one thing you need to know about upgrading your pages, though. Again, the process I described where you combine your Google Places and your Google Plus. We don't know the extent to which it actually helps your rankings. This is probably the question I get asked more than any other about the sort of the new fancy types of Google Plus pages. Will it help my rankings? The answer is it might indirectly, but we don't know what Google knows, and it's relatively few businesses actually have the upgraded type of business page. So it's very hard to see sort of what kind of impact upgrading your listing has on rankings. Really, the only difference, and this is sort of the deciding factor regarding whether you should or should not bother upgrading, is the only difference is the social, sort of the social knickknacks that Google Plus gives you, and whether or not you're going to use them. You probably know what all the different kind of social tools are of Google Plus, but here's just a quick rundown. The first is posts. Essentially, if you think of Google Plus as being like Facebook, on Facebook you can post on your wall. Same thing here with Google Plus. If you have a personal Google Plus page or a Google Plus for Business page, that isn't for a local business, like again Amazon, or even if you have sort of the upgraded Google Plus page for a local business, you can put these little posts on your wall. On your Google Plus page, people read them. You can link back to your a blog post you just did. You can pretty much do whatever you want. And so posts are nice. They don't necessarily. We don't know whether they help your rankings, but obviously Google likes content, so it's not a stretch to imagine that if you're really active on posting on Google Plus, you might get a little bump in rankings. But again, we just don't know. The second social feature of Google Plus is circles. This is sort of, I consider circles almost like a reviews light. I mean, obviously getting reviews is important, but it's very challenging to get some customers to review you. Sometimes it's not even feasible, in some industries, like maybe if you're a DUI lawyer, it's kind of iffy sometimes, to ask people to write a review. Not impossible, but sometimes you still want your customers to, or clients somehow to give you a little bit of a boost in rankings, if at all possible. So, if you can't get reviews, or even if you can, it's kind of nice to supplement, sort of hedge your bets, if you will, by having your customers add you to circles and vice versa. Maybe you add them to circles first. We don't know to the extent to which this impacts rankings, but it very well may. And I anticipate that as Google Plus kind of matures, circles will actually matter to your rankings more. But at this stage, it's kind of unclear. Plus ones, kind of the same thing as circles. Really, all you need to know about plus ones is that they're basically like a Facebook like. I mean, we don't know whether they impact rankings, but they probably do a little bit. They may down the road. It's just impossible to tell. But all other things being equal, I would suggest, if you have an upgraded page, trying to get a couple plus ones from your customers, to the extent that you're close with them and don't mind asking. The fourth social feature that very few people seem to talk about. I know Mike has talked about this, and David Min, who obviously now works at Moz, those two guys have talked about the ability for one business to review another business, and this I think is kind of the coolest feature of the upgraded Google Plus local listings, where you can actually once you upgrade your page, you can actually review another business from your own business page, and the chance that I think that's a good way to maybe get a review in return, because the other business would certainly notice the review and probably reciprocate. So that's another kind of nice feature of Google Plus. The other main benefits are that it works a lot better than Google Places. I mean, the old dashboard, sort of the old back end, that handles the Google Places listings is very clunky, and it takes like 4 or 6 weeks even to upload a photo, to upload a video. Actually, the videos don't even show on your local listings anymore. So but on Google Plus, on the other hand, if you have upgraded your page, you can upload videos and photos instantly. So that's another potential reason to upgrade. But really, the main thing, and this is, if you get one thing out of this presentation, it's this: you have one choice to make regarding whether or not you should upgrade your Google Plus Local, aka Google Places listing, to sort of the fancier version. You have all these social bells and whistles, but will you use them? Do you see yourself spending time, writing, a couple posts a week, adding customers to circles, maybe reviewing a couple other businesses? It's not a big time commitment, but if you don't have sort of close relationships with your customers, or you just, you don't have time, even to take a shower because you're so busy running your business, you may not even want to bother upgrading, because really you're not necessarily going to outrank your competitors just because you upgraded to Google Plus. You might outrank them, again, indirectly, if you really become sort of a power user of all the social benefits of Google Plus. But just the mere act of upgrading is not going to help you. It sort of depends on how you use those new features. So that's really the only decision you have to make regarding whether or not to upgrade. The only case in which it's just an absolute no-brainer, and there is truly no harm in in upgrading is if you're a one location business, meaning all your customers come to you, and again, you're willing to spend a little time using the social features that Google Plus gives you. Otherwise, it's sort of a gray area, and it depends. Whether or not you should upgrade sort of depends on specifics of your situation. Like, for instance, if you're a service area business, meaning you're a carpet cleaner, plumber, landscaper, and you travel to your customers rather than the other way around, you cannot upgrade your listing to sort of a fancier version. So in that case, it's a no-brainer. You don't even try. On the other hand, if you have a bricks and mortar location, your customers come to you, then it may be worth upgrading. If you have multiple locations, you can't upgrade. Google doesn't even give you the option of, if you have three local listings in your Google Places dashboard, you have to pick one that you want to upgrade. You can't do all three. We hope that in the near future, Google gives people the option of upgrading multiple locations, but at the moment you're kind of high and dry, and essentially you have to pick the location that you want to upgrade and sort of leave the others behind as sort of glorified Google Places pages, without all the social features. If you have any sort of data issues where Google has your address wrong, and maybe you've tried to fix it, but the changes haven't stuck, and you can't seem to get, Google seems to just be getting your information wrong, and you don't know how to fix it. Hold off, don't upgrade. Just get the problems fixed first, and then consider upgrading to sort of the full Google Plus page. Again, if you just don't see yourself engaging with customers and you don't see them engaging with you back, don't even bother. So really quickly, I just want to go through the steps of how you upgrade in different situations, because your business, maybe you don't have one location, maybe you have multiple locations, maybe you've never been on Google Places before, and you're just sort of hanging your shingle for the first time. But let's say you're probably the most common situation is you've been on Google Places for a while. Your business may or may not have good rankings, and you have a Google Places page. How do you upgrade? Well, the first thing you do is, given that you already have a Google Places page, you go to Google Plus, plus.google.com, and you create a page for a local business. And this is important because Google gives you several types of pages. Google allows you to create several different types of pages. One of them is for a product or brand. One of them is personal, and the other is for a local business. You want to be sure to that you pick the local business variety. So you just go there, create your local business page in Google Plus, and Google will automatically ask you, hey, do you want to upgrade these? Do you want to merge this with your Google Places listing? Say yes. Once you get to this point, it's a pretty easy process. And as when you verified your Google Places page originally, Google is going to want to verify your Google Plus page. So they're going to send you a postcard in the mail, snail mail, with a PIN. And you're going to have to get that PIN in the mail and enter it into Google Plus. And then once you do that, your two pages are merged and you're good to go. The second situation, I sort of alluded to this a couple minutes ago. You've got multiple locations and multiple Google Places pages. You have to pick one that you'd like to upgrade. It's essentially the same process as what I just described a minute ago. You go to Google Plus, create a local business page, and choose one listing, one Google Places listing to merge it with. You can't do more than one, but again, we hope that Google gives you this capability soon. If you're just setting up shop for the first time, you've never had a Google Places page before, never had a Google Plus page either. What you do is you first create a Google Places page, same place you've always created them, google.com/places for business, and you create your Places page first. You're going to have to wait a couple weeks to receive the postcard in the mail with the PIN on it, and then you're going to have to verify that. You're going to want to make sure that it's up and running, and that there aren't any sort of issues with it, and then and only then go to Google Plus and create a local business page there. Again, be sure to know how to do the local business type rather than a personal Google Plus page. And then again, it's the same process I described earlier. You just kind of follow, sort of follow the trail of breadcrumbs and wait for the postcard to come in the mail, and then you've merged the two. But the key thing to know here is that if you're just sort of opening up shop for the first time, you want to create your Google Places page first, rather than your Google Plus page, so that you can merge them. Common mistakes. Be sure to create your Places and Plus pages in the same account, because sometimes if you don't do that, sometimes Google will have difficulty sort of associating the two of them and recognizing that you're the owner of both. It's possible. I've seen some cases where people create a Google Plus and Google Places page in different accounts, and they're actually able to merge them anyway, but those are sort of the exceptions and not the rule. So generally, you want to have them in the same account. Again, you've got to create, you can see right here, the nice little red map pin. You want to select that type of plus page to create, rather than product or brand or some other type, because otherwise you won't be able to upgrade. Again, as I mentioned, I'm sort of covering things that I already covered. If you travel to customers rather than the other way around, if you're a landscaper, plumber, roofer, etc., you can't do any of this. You cannot merge your Google Plus and Google Places pages together. The reasons are sort of complicated. I think we can probably get to them later, but the long and short of it is you can't do it. If you have any problems, I'm afraid I don't have any sort of silver bullet solutions, because it kind of depends on what the specific problem is. But the thing you might not know is that this year, as of like January, Google's actually gotten pretty good at providing customer support. And I never really did this in the past, but if you do have a problem with, if you can't seem to if you know for a fact that your Places and Plus pages are fully compliant, following all the rules, and you've set them up correctly, you pick the right type of page, the local business page, and essentially if you know you're doing everything right, then you can contact Google. You can use what they call the Google Places troubleshooter. If you just type Google Places verification troubleshooter into Google, it's going to be the first result. If you run into any sort of problems, this is what I suggest you do. You even have the option, believe it or not, to get them on the phone. You'll want to have your sort of the link to your business listing ready, and they don't need a long link, because as you see, the relevant part is just plus.google.com plus this string of numbers. But you're going to want to be able to send them that link so that they know exactly what page you're talking about. But if you run into heavy-duty problems, you can actually get somebody on the phone. And my clients have contacted Google, on occasion for one reason or another, and they've been really helpful. So definitely don't shy away from, first and foremost, if you have a problem, use the Google Places troubleshooter. And second, don't shy away from getting on the phone, because somebody at Google may actually be able to help you. So that's pretty much it. I guess we probably have a few questions about Google Plus, upgraded pages, etc.
Bill, we certainly do. Thanks for that. There's a very thorough run through. So we are a little bit behind time, guys. So we'll try and jump in a few questions, and then we'll obviously move on to Andrew's section. So some of the questions that have come in on sort of similar threads is, first one is, do Google Plus local posts and pages and updates to those pages, how much impact do they actually have on ranking within local results? If you put more content on your pages, and there's frequency and I guess recency of activity, does that have a positive correlation to ranking? And if it does, is it significant?
Yeah, again, it's sort of too early to tell. It may have an indirect. I mean, again, in general, Google likes content, so it's not a stretch to think that that posts that if you're active, sort of using all the social bells and whistles of Google Plus, and creating posts not only on your website, but then posting on your Google Plus page, that may help you, but really the benefits are more indirect. Potentially you could get more links as a result of your posts. You could get, if somebody comes to your upgraded Google Plus for Business page and really likes the posts you do, he or she might +1 give your posts a +1, but you're getting sort of like a Facebook like. He or she may add you to circles. So, and those things may help rankings a little bit. But it's really, so at most I would say that using the social tools can help your rankings indirectly. But I haven't noticed like a noticeable difference in terms of the correlation between that and high rankings.
Okay, great. And how about things like, can you put videos in posts? Another question that's come in. And do you think adding videos has got value?
Right. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, obviously you can post a link to a video, but whether or not you can embed the video in the post, intuitively I sort of think you can, because YouTube obviously is a Google property, and Google's properties sort of talk with each other, and so I would imagine that you can, but maybe somebody else has a definitive answer for that.
What's the best way to deal with the situation when a listing's already been... Sorry, Mike. I talked over you there. Do you want to repeat that?
Yeah, Mike. Mike, I think you said that
you can embed videos in a post.
So you can embed. Okay, great.
And they do show.
Oh, great. Good to know. Thanks.
A note about ranking. Your Google Plus page can have PageRank, so it actually ranks in and of itself at Google. It doesn't really directly influence ranking of your local listing, only through indirectly perhaps passing some PageRank back to your site.
Right.
But am I right in thinking those pages show up predominantly for branded searches rather than, say, keyword searches?
Well, if you're posting regularly and you post on different topics, those topical searches, if they are shared and plus, will show up in the search results quite high and quite regularly, like guest blogs or a blog post. They're transitory. They move through the results fairly quickly. They are there. So they're a way of getting, as Phil said, secondary benefit.
Excellent.
So guys, this is Andrew. What I've seen is they show up really well in personalized results. So, which is an incentive to circle people in your geography, because when they are doing queries that are relevant to stuff you're posting on, they are showing up.
Okay.
Right, and that could lead to a sort of a secondary benefit. I mean, what Andrew said may ultimately kind of indirectly help your sort of your non-personalized ranking, local rankings, because theoretically, if you get a bunch of customers or other people into your circles, if you have the upgraded version of your business page, and you add those people to circles, and you're showing up in more people's personalized results, and more people are clicking on you, sort of engaging with your listing and website. Now that may also be a signal to Google, sort of the engagement. I mean, I've long believed that the click-through rate, through to your Google Places or to your website, that has always seemed to me to be a factor in Google's rankings. Now to some extent that's speculation, but in other words, if you're able to sort of boost the level of engagement and get more people clicking through to your listing, because maybe you have a lot of people, a lot of customers in circles, that may indirectly help your rankings too.
Okay, got some other kind of practical questions that have come in. One is about reviews and people who have lost reviews since their pages were updated. Is there any way to get reviews back in that scenario?
Yeah, Google actually has, and I think this is part of the Google Places troubleshooter that I mentioned earlier. I think I know there's a way, I think it's in there, that you can report to Google that your reviews are showing up on the wrong places page, or that they need to be, that they went missing. And I haven't actually had a scenario recently where I've had to like try to reclaim reviews that ended up in the wrong place. But my understanding is that sometimes Google is actually able to find your reviews and put them back where they belong. But I don't have any firsthand experience with first losing reviews as a result of the upgrade and then trying to get those reviews back.
That's a fairly new option, and you can find it at My Forum or as a sticky at the top of the Google Business Forum. It'll tell you how to do it.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to remember whether it's part of the Google Places troubleshooter or I don't know that there's an option in there, but yeah, I would defer to Linda on this one.
Yeah, there's a thread that explains how to do it.
Another question that's coming is about for you guys about kind of either franchises or kind of multiple location businesses, and what's the kind of best approach in terms of having individual kind of Google Plus pages for them, but also only having kind of one kind of core website, and if you've got a personal kind of Google Plus account and you've got multiple locations which your businesses, what's the kind of one to many or one to one sort of scenario there?
That's a good question, but it's really complicated. It would sort of depend. It sort of depend on a lot of things, like whether. I mean, probably the answer off the top of my head is again, you can only upgrade one of your listings to sort of the merged Google Plus profile. So if let's say you have sort of a flagship location in a big city, and maybe you have some other locations in the suburbs, but by and large your big city location tends to get more foot traffic and is generally in a more populated area. Maybe that's the Google Plus page that you want to. Maybe that's the Google Places page that you want to upgrade into kind of a full-blown Google Plus. But it really just depends. It depends on a lot of things.
Can I add something? Google has said to me that I'm going to add it. I didn't get permission. Google has said to me that they don't currently have great support for a single brand posting to multiple location pages, that they are planning on doing something, and their suggestion is to wait with social and local. You can certainly do social with a brand, but with a local page, if you have multiple stores, Google is suggesting waiting. At some point, they will have a solution that works for bulk upload people in multiple locations that allows for a single social presence across multiple locations.
Okay, that's great.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, for the time being, if you have multiple locations, things are going to be kind of disjointed for a while, until Google gives you the option to, upgrade all of your pages.
Other questions coming is about, if you're an extensive blogger, either kind of guest blogger or on your own site, if you take the same bit of content and you stick it on your Google Plus listing, does that create duplicate content issues? Can you get kind of penalized for that? Is it bad practice, and Google finds it, they'll frown upon it and maybe kind of downgrade you, or is it just general bad practice that you shouldn't do?
That's a great question. I simply don't know. I mean, my hunch is that you probably don't. If you have a 1,000 word blog post that you have on your site, you probably don't want to put the same 1,000 words verbatim on your Plus page, and ultimately that would just be kind of. It would sort of defeat the purpose of your website. You want to get people from your Plus page onto your website, because on your Plus page you're sort of hamstrung as to what you can do and not do. But on your website you can pretty much do what you want, and that's your review. That's sort of your conversion funnel. So ultimately you want to sort of entice people with a little bit of your blog post and then say, hey, for more, go to our website. But as for whether or not Google would actually penalize you for duplicate content, I don't know. But I don't see any reason why you would want to post the exact same thing on your Plus page that's on your website.
Okay, there's another question coming that actually is probably actually more for the kind of previous sort of session, but I thought I might throw this out to Andrew. Andrew, this was posted previously by Imran. He's actually posted a lot of questions today, so thanks, Imran. I think you're our number one poster. He says, why are big sites and aggregators like Yelp Insider Pages dominating search results? And how can small local business sites beat these authority sites and rank above them?
So the reason why these what we call IYPs or national/local sites tend to rank for local queries is one, they tend to have either they have decent content and brand like Yelp, let's say, or they do a lot of SEO, which is like most of the big local directory sites. And Google wants to show a diverse set of queries in any kind of result usually. That said, what we're seeing over the last couple of years with all the different local result changes is Google is squeezing these guys out slowly but surely in favor of truly local businesses. And so what the question really gets at is, can I have a Google plus local, Google Places strategy, as well as a, let's just call it a local organic strategy, meaning showing up in the results that are not those places results? And the answer is yes. And what we're seeing is as local businesses get much better at SEO, they're starting to push the organic local results out, like the Yelps of the world. There'll still be a place for Yelps and stuff in the results for a long time, but local guys are getting more and more of that SERP real estate as they get better at SEO.
And so, do you think, in terms of the if you think, I guess, kind of PageRank or kind of domain authority, Yelp is always going to have the bigger number, at least from a kind of homepage perspective, than a kind of local business. But is there kind of additional weighting given to a kind of smaller local business over Yelp by Google?
I haven't seen that in the organic results, except when they had those blended results where the pack result and an organic result got mushed together. But I haven't seen it in the pure organic results for local queries where, because it's got it's physically located in the city or something like that it gets up there. Really, what I've seen is they're doing better link building for the most part, and they have better keyword targeting, et cetera.
Okay, so I guess it's a case of Yelp is trying to be, I guess, all things to all people, and therefore it devalues itself in a kind of one-to-one, kind of local head-to-head with a small business that can concentrate and focus all its attention on a really tight niche set of search terms.
Well, I've always maintained that all these big, even Yelp, but all these big directory sites are just like at the mercy of smart local businesses who can essentially outrank them if they really want to and really try. So, for example, you could easily start I don't know easily, but you could start a local review site off of your own little electrician's website, and you could very quickly find yourself outranking Yelp for a lot of local queries that have nothing to do with your business.
Hey, Miles, we're way behind. We should probably jump to Andrew, or
Yep.
he won't have time.
I know. I'm just kind of conscious of how valuable all this information is and all these kind of Q&A. So yeah, I think Phil, thank you very much for kind of taking us through that, and also to other speakers for answering questions. I'm just going to hand over to Andrew now to kick off the final session. So Andrew, hand the control over to you now.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish we had 2 more hours for a Q&A.
Can you guys?
We can always extend the Q&A at the end, and whoever's available to stay around, I'm certainly available to be here. Obviously, speakers, you've probably got other things to go and do, but if anyone is able to hang around, we can address a few questions that we haven't got to.
I'll stay as long as you need to help with that.
Great, thanks, Linda.
Can you guys see my screen?
Is there something
yes, we
to
can.
do besides talk about local?
Not this side of Christmas.
So
we can see your screen.
screen.
Yes,
okay.
we can.
Are you seeing the control panel or not?
No.
Good. Okay.
Just your slide deck.
Control panel is in my way. Okay. Anyhow, so I'll try to blow through this. So when Apple Maps came out last fall, I thought it might be an interesting thing to start figuring it out because I was kind of tired of Google's bullshit, and there were plenty of other people figuring that stuff out. Like Mike says, as Mike says, he's an idiot savant about Google. I am not an idiot savant about Apple Maps. I'm more like an idiot who's just trying really hard. Apple Maps gets ignored by most people in this industry right now, as far as I can tell. And for the simple fact that when it came out, it got a lot of bad press. And half the people in the world have Androids and don't even use Apple Maps. Originally, I was going to title this presentation, get it to work, "Think Apple Maps Suck," because that's pretty much what everyone was saying, is Apple Maps sucks, who cares, no one uses it. And in reality, it couldn't be further from the truth. Not that, they may in fact suck, depending on how you feel about them, but a lot of people use them. This is some numbers from September of last year. Over 400 million iOS devices are out there in the world. I can't remember what the latest update is. I bet it's somewhere closer to 500 million iOS devices, including iPhones and iPads. And all of these come with Apple Maps now embedded in them. According to a very smart analyst about Apple named Horace Dedew from a blog called asympgo.com, which is awesome. You guys should all read it if you want to kind of find out like what's happening in the mobile business. He's predicting about 1 billion iOS devices around the world by 2015. That's a lot of Apple Maps devices. And when I look at across my clients I've been tracking since September, the rank of iOS 6 as an operating system, what you see from this chart is it's becoming the top operating system or close to the top operating system across, in this case, I think I was looking at about 50 million visitors to websites that I have access to the data on, and it's steadily going up. And according to Apple, actually according to my data, about 82% of all iOS visits now are coming from iOS 6 and above, and iOS 6 and above will have Apple Maps. And with iOS 7 coming out in the fall, and there's a lot of Apple Maps stuff embedded in iOS 7 and in the new Mac OS X or OS 10 operating system, the usage of Apple Maps is going to go through the roof. The thing that you should understand is it's the default map for every iOS location map. When you click on something in an iOS app that has location attached to it, it usually sends you to some version of Apple Maps, except Google. For some reason, Google's able to send people to Google Maps. I'm not sure quite how they're doing that. Maybe other apps will start to do it at some point, but it's kind of an anomaly in the iOS system right now. And Google Maps as an iOS app is getting used a lot. I haven't seen any definitive numbers about it, but Mike did a survey in February, I think, that showed what people were using on iPhones. And according to the survey, 35% of iPhone users were using Apple Maps. I would imagine that's going up, and when iOS 7 comes out, I would imagine that's going to move beyond 50% because it's all going to come with Apple Maps as the default. There won't be any Google Maps pre-installed. So all that's to say is that this stuff is getting used. It's not the top map app yet. It's not the top local search app, but it's going to be one of the top ones over the next year. And understanding how it works is going to be critical. That said, understanding how it works for businesses it's kind of akin to how the knowledge graph works in Google right now. It's a fairly closed system. It's pretty much a black box. There are some things that we've been able to figure out that seem to move the levers, but it's still kind of a mystery in some ways. But here's what we figured out. So these are the main providers for Apple Maps. Localese, now called Neustar Localese, Axiom, Factual. They provide the core business listings in the U.S. There's a bunch of other data providers around the world, TomTom being one of them, one of the bigger ones. And Yelp is the main review provider. So if you have a review on Yelp, chances are you show up in Apple Maps. The way that Apple Maps interface works, for those who haven't really seen it, it's kind of like the new Google Maps interface. There is no results. You can get to them, but the default profile is not a result set. It's just a bunch of pins that change based on where you're located. And since most of the time you're accessing this thing on a mobile device, there's not like a you rank #1. There's just like, are you present in the city? That said, they do show as default the little snippet of one of the businesses that you're searching for at the top, particularly if you have reviews. So all the more reason why you want to make sure you're a well-reviewed business on Yelp, because that star rating shows up right at the top. when your reviews are kind of a critical part of the Apple Maps interface right now, if you click on a business link, you get to this profile, and the profile has 3 tabs: the basic info, name, address, and phone number, reviews, and photos. And you can see they show the last 3 reviews in the UI, meaning if the last 2 reviews or 3 reviews were 1 star, you look like a 1-star business to people. So you want to be make sure what your latest reviews are on Yelp, and make sure that if your latest 3 reviews, if any of them are 1 star, that you get another review to push that thing down. It's pretty good about updating it in real time and pushing it down. Excuse me. You can actually just go right to Yelp Mobile and leave a tip, and that will instantly push it down in the Yelp mobile app. If you're on your phone, you're like, hey, I see I have some bad reviews. And there's a tip I added with my daughter as a picture a little while ago. Pictures are really critical. This is a video I did. It's backwards because I was aiming my camera at the computer, but you can kind of see what the interface looks like. When you click on a business info link, you get this slideshow of pictures, and it's done really nicely. It looks really beautiful. And these photos are typically photos pulled from Yelp, from your Yelp profile. So you want to make sure you have some really nice pictures in your Yelp profile to cycle through. And maybe it's like a picture of a menu if you're a restaurant, or a picture of some service that you do. If you don't have a picture, they'll show an overhead satellite view of your business, which I don't think is very interesting, and you're kind of missing a chance to kind of impress somebody, make an impression. So definitely make sure, if you do not have a photos added to your Yelp profile, that you add a nice photo that will fit in this UI. And I don't have the dimensions of what they're showing, so I guess I should figure that out and publish it. Even worse is if you have bad pictures. This is a real picture showing up on a real result from a hotel in Norwalk called Anchor Inn Motel that someone uploaded to Yelp. Hey, these guys have cockroaches. And so you don't want to have cockroaches showing on your pictures, either in Yelp or in Apple Maps. So this would be an excuse to add a lot more pictures to your profile to kind of push this cockroach down. The biggest problem I'm seeing right now with Apple Maps is that either you're not in the data, or your address or your business is located in the wrong spot. And here's my first problem with Apple Maps that I encountered that still is a problem. I had to deliver a cable box back to Comcast, and so I had the address, and I typed in Apple Maps 4465 First Street, Livermore, California, which is the next town over from where I live. So I started to drive. I didn't even get the map. I just started to drive, and then I figured I'll get the map while I'm on the way. Well, little did I know that they didn't have an address called 4465 First Street in Livermore in their data for some reason, and so they found the nearest match to that address, which was in my own town, Pleasanton. And so when I started driving there and following the directions, I really wasn't even paying attention because I was driving and didn't want to die. But I ended up getting directions to Pleasanton, and I kept kind of circling back to where I was. I was like, what is going on here? And in fact, the problem is that either for some reason Apple didn't have that address in Livermore, and Comcast, which probably was a new location, hadn't gotten their location into Apple Maps yet. So another reason why their address wasn't showing up. And so Comcast has a real problem in that people couldn't find them. At least people on Apple Maps couldn't find them. So the standard way to try to correct these issues is to use this report a problem link in Apple Maps, where you can basically, there's 4 main problems. Either your information is incorrect, the PIN isn't located correct, the place isn't in the database, or I've got some other crazy problem. And you can try to persuade Apple that this is a real problem by sending them this message. The problem with report a problem is that I've yet to really see it work. I've reported thousands of problems. I haven't seen one of them fixed yet. So it's not clear what the procedure is for report a problem. My sense is it needs a critical mass of people to report that problem, and then for a bunch of other parameters to match up, as well as wait for a re-indexing, which supposedly happens every month, but I'm not buying that. So you sometimes can't you can't just try to rely on Apple to solve the problem. Excuse me. This just shows you the UI about how you can report a problem. And here's sort of how you can update your data. In this UI, you could move the pin yourself to where. So in this case, this business is located across the highway, but the pin is showing it on the other side of the highway. I've had close to 50 people, I think, move this pin to the right location, and it still hasn't moved in Apple Maps. So some of these data problems, the only solution is to just keep at it, and eventually Apple will solve it. Not a very satisfying solution, though. The best thing you can do right now is check your data. Since I started this Apple Maps marketing site, I've probably received, I guess, about 1,000 inquiries of people who are having problems with data. And I'd say the ones that we've tried to solve, about 70% of the time, they weren't listed in any of the data suppliers. And so merely we got them put in the data in these data suppliers like Localese, and within about 60 to 90 days, we saw the data show up. It doesn't work every time. In some cases, it appears that there's some other problem, kind of similar to a NAP consistency data problem. Like if you put yourself in here and you're in Yelp and you're still not showing up, there may be some other issue that we have to uncover. Or it may be simply that it's just Apple and there's not much you can do about it, which sucks. But we kind of have faith that at some point they're going to kind of figure out these data issues. So that's sort of a quick how to optimize for Apple Maps marketing. I have this website called applemapsmarketing.com, which has a lot of this stuff on there. You'll notice it's not updated very frequently, and that's really because I'm trying to keep it just pure factual about what we know is working right now, and it hasn't changed much in the last few months. And that's the deal.
Andrew, thank you very much. That was a really good insight for those of us who have probably kind of thought that Google and Google Maps and Google Plus Local is most of the universe for us. So it's great to know that there is hope and light beyond Google. Interesting then. So do you have any insight into what are the kind of ranking factors for Apple Maps, and how much is your location as a searcher the kind of dominant factor in terms of what shows up on the map?
So the ranking factors that I can see are really number one. It's location. So where is the business in relationship to your mobile device at that time, and that's the dominant one. And then what I'm seeing is it does seem to be heavily biased towards Yelp reviews. So if you have Yelp reviews, I'd say you're about I don't know, 50% more likely to be the first pin that pops up because they kind of genuinely want to show more content. Early on, we did some tests with Yelp Premium advertisers, and Yelp Premium advertisers seemed to rank better, but it was very hard to say if there was a causation or a correlation, and I haven't really followed up on that test. So there might be some advantage to being the Yelp Premium, but who's to say?
A lot of people have, on the kind of topic of Yelp reviews, have kind of posted questions about how they can essentially kind of get around Yelp spam filters and how they find it impossible to get kind of genuine reviews posted if they can kind of call them genuine. Does Apple Maps take a feed and the ordering of reviews as it's posted on Yelp, or does it have more of a kind of pure chronological ordering? How does it work?
It seems to be whatever the latest reviews are. Pretty quickly get up there. Sometimes I see it out of order, but it's really like the second to last one shows up first instead, and I think that's just a data syncing issue.
Okay.
But I don't think it's anything more than that.
And your example there, where you posted a quick tip, presumably you're a kind of trusted Yelper, are you?
Actually not. I was banned from Yelp for 5 years at the get-go because
what did you do?
When they first started allowing users to post avatars or images of themselves, I tested it out by just grabbing some Yelper's image and putting it on mine. And this is when I was at Insider Pages, which was a Yelp competitor. And Jeremy Stoppelman sent me an email and said, "Will you please stop fucking with my website?" And then I got "You are banned from Yelp."
Excellent. Do you think that was a personal email, or was that just a genuine
mailer?
Really?
Personal
wow.
Email.
He singled you out.
The only time he and I have ever actually communicated.
Or charming man. Other ones have come in about this. Is actually just doesn't relate, I guess, just to Apple Maps, but I guess about the kind of universe of online local data. And obviously, you've got the three kind of, I guess, kind of sort of tier one providers: Axiom, Localese, Info USA, and then you've got these kind of up and coming ones such as kind of Factual. I guess a lot of people kind of question, do they need to stick all their data on all of them? If they're going to sort of hedge their bets on one of them, which one should they go for? What's your advice on that?
Well, when you have multiple locations and each of these guys is trying to sell you these big packages to, update your data, which is kind of bullshit because they're in the business of, having the most up-to-date data. There's, my default is, well, you really over time need to be in all of them because you never know where any of these guys are going to show up. But in order of my personal preference, because it's kind of a Frankenstein monster. Info Group seems to have the best, most direct line into Google. I'm pretty confident Google uses their data to a high degree. And Info Group is in some of the pretty top tier devices that use location, like GPS systems and things like that. Localese is a pretty strong provider to a lot of the second and third tier local search sites, as well as Facebook and Apple Maps. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to be in them. Axiom also provides their data to Yelp, supposedly, and not so many local search sites that I can see, but they're still out there. And they also license their data to a ton of other businesses that do crazy things with their data. So again, they would probably be my third priority in terms of data, but they're still worth doing. Factual is really interesting. They're starting to show up in a lot of startup and global geo data systems. Like, so Foursquare uses Factual. I think Yelp uses some Factual data, and Apple Maps does. So unfortunately, it's like there's no one-stop shop that can make it all happen for you.
Can I add one bit of complexity to this whole mix? And that is that you need to also worry about the accuracy of the underlying geodata, which means that your address needs to resolve correctly at the primary map geo suppliers, that is Navteq, TeleAtlas, and Google. And so you need to go to each of those mapping correction tools and make sure that when you type your address in, it resolves correctly. So it's not just business data that has to be correct. The geolocation data at the map route level needs to be correct at those three locations. And OpenSitemap, sorry, 4 locations. OpenSitemap, Navteq, TeleAtlas, and Google.
I'm sorry, Mike.
So any of you really smart developers out there should just build push a button and it's all done. You'll be very well off.
I guess if only it was that easy. Okay, let me just have a quick look at any other kind of questions that have come in. Lots of things about reviews. That's a great question here, which I know is going to get probably quite a kind of vitriolic reaction from our speakers. But I'll ask anyway. What's the value in using kind of automated review posting services like LBL Robot these days?
I like to take a. Oh, sorry.
Phil, can I go for it, Phil?
Yeah. I didn't get the name of the automatic review posting service that you mentioned, but in general, there's no value in any approach for getting reviews other than just kind of pressing the flesh, shaking hands with your customers, saying, hey, can you do me a personal favor and write a review of my business? I mean, that's really the only way. Really the two main reasons, there are probably more, but if I thought about it, are, first and foremost, the reviews are probably going to get filtered if they are posted automatically by the same IP address or by several different IPs, from somebody in the Philippines, who you may have hired to get reviews for you rather than ask your customers yourself. So the reviews may not even see the light of day to begin with. But even best case, if the automatically posted reviews do get through, customers have a really good BS detector. I mean, they can they can't necessarily tell whether one review is legit or another review is legit. But on the whole, they can tell, generally speaking, if a business has a bunch of fake reviews, or they all came in on the same day, or it's exactly 5 a week and so forth, or if the reviews themselves sound fake. So really anything other than just asking people, for your customers, one at a time, personally, is not the way to go.
Okay, great.
I'm actually going to take just a minor contrarian view there. I actually think that kind of stuff can work, unfortunately. But I think if you're relying on it, you're kind of not, I guess what you'd call future-proofing yourself against when Google really decides to slam that stuff shut. And if that happens, then your clients are going to be kind of screwed. It's just like kind of spammy link building. You can get #1 rankings really quickly, but sooner or later you're going to get burned down to the ground.
A few more questions about kind of data.
My opinion is it's the wrong metric to use. That using total review counts, which don't seem to directly influence ranking after a certain point, is a bad metric. I think that the better metric is customer satisfaction. I think that every business should be integrating customer satisfaction feedback with every customer, and then using that as a way to encourage those customers that are happy with you to leave reviews, and those that aren't happy with you, for you to fix the problem. To me, that's a much better metric that you can implement into your business processes and use it to prevent bad reviews going online and get some good reviews, instead of worrying about your total review count at Google, which I think is a ass backwards way of doing it.
What appears to me is that it, as you kind of touched on before, that reviews are not just a kind of ranking factor, but also a kind of conversion point. And actually, obviously, things such as kind of review management sort of services for your clients become more and more relevant as things like review counts get so heavily surfaced in the kind of carousel, and presuming they're going to start to stick the kind of star rating in the carousel as well. That's going to be kind of that's going to be kind of right up there sort of foremost in terms of what potential customers are looking at. And obviously in Apple Maps as well, when you're looking just at an interface, and obviously the new Google Maps interfaces, people are going to start making their choices not based on what's ranking A to J kind of down the page, but in terms of the information that's presented to them sort of first and foremost, which is going to be review count and also star rating. So I'm saying it's going to increase in prominence and importance that you manage the not just the overall kind of star rating, but also the recency and the quality of those recent reviews.
And also, everyone, we're going to be having a webinar specifically on reviews, because that's a huge piece and there's tons of questions about that. But since we're 10 minutes over, maybe we should wrap up with the closing information, and then whoever can stay to answer questions on the panel, I'll be here and Miles will be here. We can continue questions after that.
Yeah, that's great, Linda. Thanks for that. It was going to be my job keeping us on track time-wise, but I failed dramatically in that regard. But it was all too interesting, all too exciting. So I'm just going to kind of just close off with a few additional pieces about things that we've got coming up. Just going to go to my slide deck again. So we've got 3 additional webinars scheduled so far. On the 31st of July, we're looking at optimizing the perfect local business website, and we'll be joined by Mike Ramsey and also hopefully one other additional guest that is to be announced. Then on August the 14th, we're looking at sales strategies for local agencies. This is really pitched at agencies consultants rather than SMBs direct, and we're being joined by Laura Betterley and David Sprague. And then on 10th of September, we're looking at enhanced citation optimization with David Mosseri, myself, and again, one other guest speaker. So those are the 3 other webinars we've got coming up, but we are planning on doing this every couple of weeks. And actually, there's a survey both on Linda's forum, but also at the end of this webinar, where we kind of basically looking to get kind of Cam's opinion on what topics you want to hear most about in the webinar. So look out for that page on Linda's site. In fact, Linda, do you want to put that in the chat box now? When you put it in there, you can post it out to the entire audience so they can see where that link is. And then also in the emails.
Yeah, I did a couple minutes ago, and I'll put it again right now.
Yeah, I think it got sent just to organisers and panelists actually. So I think underneath.
Oh, I see.
There's a drop-down box where you can post it out to everyone.
I gotcha.
That's right. Keep jumping between screens here. Let me come back to this one. And any other unanswered questions that you've got, you can post them onto the kind of local search forum. And Linda, if you want to sort of circulate that link as well to everyone, where they can post any unanswered questions, we can pick these things up in more time tomorrow and the few days to come. In actual fact, that's probably where it's hosted right now, is on the localsearchforum.com, InsideLocal-webinars. If you want to find out and see when these upcoming webinars are kind of scheduled for and kind of book yourself in, you can book yourself in at brightlocal.com/InsideLocal. So that's where we've got the schedule of upcoming webinars and also links to kind of book yourself into those webinars.
And by the way, that's where the Q&A is, and that's also where the videos and the slideshows will be posted.
Yeah, exactly. So these are kind of the hubs for the kind of content related to InsideLocal. But don't worry, we've all got everyone's email addresses, and we had a few people who've had to drop out because we've run over. But we'll make sure that everyone gets emailed around with all the information. Obviously, links to the full recording once it's been edited down, and also link to see the slide deck on SlideShare. Great. So that covers off everything. Appreciate that we've run over time. Again, I appreciate that everyone has kind of sort of stuck with us, given us an hour and a half of their extremely valuable time. A very big thank you to all the speakers for joining us today. When Linda and I kind of started conceiving this plan, these are the names that were on the tips of our tongue, the people we really want to get on board. We do plan to have another sort of state of local search probably in a couple of months' time, and kind of repeat this sort of topic so that we can keep on top of all the latest and most pressing changes that are going ahead. Wonderful if we get such esteemed guests back again. We'll have to do our best to twist their arm to come back and join us. But again, thank you very much, guys. If you're able to hang around for a few questions, that would be great. But understand that many people have got to get off to start their days proper. So while we're here, I will just... Okay, we'll just field a few questions and see what we've got coming up. So a question here about Factual says, I'm seeing that Factual doesn't even have listings for a huge number of businesses that I'm looking at. And this question is posted by Joy. Hi, Joy. Joy and I know each other very well. Is this normal for Factual? Are they growing their data? Are they doing it in a different way to kind of other providers? And why might they be missing such a huge swathe of data?
I guess I'll take that one. Factual, in my understanding, Factual is kind of trying to mimic Google in the way it gathers data, meaning it's doing it algorithmically, crawling around, searching for stuff, putting things together, triangulating that this is this business, etc. It's probably not a perfect system. They haven't been doing it for 10 years. And if they don't have your data, the simplest thing you can do is go to factual.com and submit it. And they're actually, I think they have an API now where if you're trusted, you can actually add data. So for example, I'm a trusted Factual API user, and so I can actually add data, and I think they'll just sort of take it on faith. So you might want to just contact someone at Factual. There's a guy named Tyler Bell. You can find him on Twitter. Is the guy to talk to.
Great, Tyler Bell. Okay, that's very useful. Thank you for that.
No, don't all spam Tyler. He'll blame
you. Yeah, I was going to say, I'll thank you, but he necessarily won't. Another question about reviews. Which third-party review websites have the most impact or weigh most heavily on Google with regards to ranking? I guess similarly with the kind of upstream data providers or citation sources, which ones would you think are the most authoritative, and how much does the authority of a citation site or authority of a review site have on ranking?
So when you look at the Google algorithm, or the Google patent on this matter, review site diversity is mentioned in the patent as one of the ranking factors. They don't indicate which review sites they don't indicate which they think are most important. But I think when you go through any given local industry search and you go over the pins and you look at the review sites that are mentioned, that gives you a pretty good idea. So there's City Search, Insider Pages, Yelp. Well, Yelp doesn't show up there, but Yahoo shows up. And then there's a whole range of vertical sites that are dependent upon what industry you're in. So the best bet is to look to see which sites they are referencing. if anybody I have a spreadsheet of every review site and their various policies, whether they allow on-site reviews or not, how to get a review taken down, whether they allow anonymous reviews. If they email me, mike@blumenthals.com, I'd be glad to share that spreadsheet with them.
And if I could interject, when it comes to reviews, if you only read one post about review strategy on Google Local and the best way to go, Google, or we can send you the link to find Mike's post on Google Post-Apocalypse or something like that. I think that's still one of the best posts on good overall review strategies.
Okay, great. Thank you, Linda. Just now, so I've got one eye on the kind of question module. So a lot of people saying thank you, got to go. It's been great. Looking forward to getting the recording. Interesting question here, which I'm not really I quite understand. But this is addressed to you, Mike. It says, what do the letters TBM mean as part of a parameter? I think that's when you said if you add a little parameter to the end of the URL, you can start to see the kind of mapped ranking pages.
Well, as I said, I was an idiot savant. That falls on the idiot side. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Need to talk.
Badass map.
I don't know what that means.
That was a parameter to be able to see, I think, the new star display.
Right. But the question is, what is the meaning of the parameter? And I don't know what Google's internal meaning is for the parameter.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we do a lot of study of parameters like that as well. There's lots of different kind of parameters you can set. So I don't think it's got any significance. It's just their own, I guess, their own classification. But you never know with Google. A quick question. Someone's asked about the kind of cost of submitting to the kind of aggregators. Do you guys know what the situation is? I know there've been a bit of changes in terms of what the fee structure is for submitting to aggregators.
Yeah, if I could just pick that one up. The only data aggregator that I know of at the moment that actually, generally speaking, requires you to pay is Localese, and that's $300 a year to add your listing to Localese.com for the first time. Or back in April, they made things complicated because you can still have a free listing. If you already have a listing on Localese.com and you want to change it, you can change it like one. You can make a round of changes to your. You can claim the listing and then make a round of changes once per year. But if 3 months down the road you get a new phone number or rename your business or relocate or what have you, then if you want to change your listing again, you have to pony up to $300 per year. And you do get a discount if, for instance, your friendly local SEO provider is a Localese reseller and sort of buys Localese listings in bulk. He or she then could offer you it for cheaper than $300. But generally speaking, if you need to make changes to your Localese listing or add it to the first time, you may be looking at $300 a year. ExpressUpdate.com as far as I know, it's always been free, and it still is free.
Only for less than 10 listings. If you have more than 10 listings, they charge you.
Yeah, it's ExpressUpdateUSA.com.
Well, they actually renamed. I think we're talking about the same thing, and I mean they renamed it to Express Update in like June, and so if you go to ExpressUpdateUSA.com, that now forwards to Express Update. It's I guess they just.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's actually two different sites that are doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the same people, the same data provider, but they also Express Update made things a little more complicated too, because it used to be that, if I, your friendly local SEO guy, wanted to set up your Express Update listing for you, I could do it without your involvement because I just needed, your email address, if you were my client. And I could set it up, and it was a pretty hassle-free procedure. But now they require, if you the business owner want to claim your Express Update listing, you got to do it by phone personally. I mean, it's still free, but in other words, you have to be involved in the process. And actually, the thing is, even if you used to have a claimed, if let's say a year ago you claimed your Express Update listing and made any necessary changes to it and so forth, you have to reclaim it now because your old login information will not work. So the business owner have to verify it by phone, claim it. Then I believe you have to set up a new login if you want to make any sorts of changes to your listing. And fortunately, it's still free. Maybe they'll go the way of localese.com down the road, but there are just a lot of hoops you have to jump through.
Sure. Okay, Phil, appreciate that. I think we've got time for maybe a couple more questions, and I think we should wrap things up here. So Steve Bedwell has asked the same question a couple of times. He's obviously keen to get an answer there, and I hope he is still listening. Steve's question is to do with kind of getting listings for kind of, I guess, kind of peculiarly structured addresses. For example, he says, one of my clients has got an address of 12 to 18, so 12-18 Hoxton Street. That isn't liked by many kind of data providers, including Google. Any tips for how he should kind of manage that to get listed and also make sure that location is recognized?
Move to a new address.
Would that be a UPS location?
No, just kidding. Obviously, any address that you enter should be vetted at the 4 major map sites to make sure that they can resolve it. And if they can't, you have to figure out what address they are using. I mean, you can't beat your head against the wall. And if the maps resolve that 14 through 18 as 16, then you need to use 16, right? I mean, in other words, every address has to be resolvable, or people can't find you. They can't get driving directions. They can't look you up. So you need to find an address that's resolvable. If there is no resolvable address, then you need to go to those map suppliers and get it fixed. I mean, those are your choices. You can't make an address up. And in countries like Spain that don't use addresses, it's really a problem. I'm not sure there, but in most countries there is some structure to the address process, and each of these mapping companies has a protocol for an address on that street, and you've got to comply with it.
Hey guys, I wanted to share a real quick tip that Rick Caldwell just gave. As people are starting to drop off, I want to make sure people see this because we still have a couple hundred on. If you go at the top of your right panel and click File, you can download the questions that were asked because a lot of them were answered during the event, so you can download the Q&A that happened, and also you can download the chat log where some links were posted. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that.
Great, thanks, Linda. So, guys, we're kind of 2 hours now, so we've run well over. I think we should kind of call it a day there. Allow everyone to kind of get away. Just one final round of thank yous to the speakers on behalf of Linda and myself. Again, just can't thank you enough for sharing your time, wisdom, tips, and insights. Not just with us today, but in terms of your kind of blogging and the other work that you do. It's an invaluable source of information for all of us. So thank you. Thank you also to everyone kind of listening in. We hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. We hope to see you on another webinar very shortly. We'll be in touch with all the kind of dates, details, etc. for those. And best of luck wherever you are, and have a great day. Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.